What is up, and welcome to SGPN's The Daily Dog. I'm your host, Britton Hess. I'm here with my favorite Underdog Fantasy Pick'em plays for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with the promo code DAILYDOG, DAILYDOG at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the Underdog Fantasy app. Again, that's promo code DAILYDOG, DAILYDOG at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the Underdog Fantasy app. If you are new to Underdog Fantasy, you can take advantage of that promo code. That is the best promo code that Underdog offers. 50% is quite a bit of positive EV if you are new to Underdog. And they also have boosts and all sorts of other bonuses going on all season long. Vulture protection in the NFL, read about it. It's huge as far as getting your touchdowns vultured if you're using a starting running back in a slip. Obviously, the rescues are amazing if you have a player get injured in the first half that does not return in the second half. A bunch of advantageous things you can do on Underdog that you cannot do elsewhere on other pick'em sites or other sports betting apps or sports betting areas. Obviously, Underdog is different than sports betting. It's fantasy projections, but there's some overlap. And again, there's some advantages that you get with Underdog that you do not get elsewhere. All right, let's get into it. Our last Thursday night football slip of the week. We've put two in already. I'll get to those in a little bit. Then I'll also get to my NBA and my NHL slips for the night. But Thursday night football slip. Keep an eye on the weather. Obviously, I was a little bit bullish the weather was going to be fine. Now, maybe it might be a little bit more hard rain than I was expecting on this game today, but keep an eye on that. Again, wind is more important than rain, and as of now, the rain is actually not, the rain could be bad, but as of now, the wind is not that bad, and wind is the most important factor for points in an NFL football game, so keep an eye on that. Wind will prevent quarterbacks from throwing the ball. It will prevent kickers from making kicks and all that stuff much more than rain will. So keep an eye on that right up until kick. That said, let's talk about a kicker right off the bat. We're going Chris Boswell, higher than 1.5 extra points made. I think the Steelers are going to have 2 touchdowns scored in this game, and I think Chris Boswell is not going to miss a PAT. I think the Steelers are going to probably score 3 to 4 touchdowns in this game, maybe even 5. So give me Boswell higher than 1.5 extra points made. Let's get this one done in the first quarter. Let's check that one off the list and move on to the next pick in our slip. And the next pick in our slip is Jameis Winston higher than 216.5 passing yards. That's because I think the Steelers are going to win, and I think the Browns are going to be playing from behind. When they're playing from behind, that means you pass more. When they pass more, you get more yards. Jameis Winston has shown the ability to get tons of garbage yards in his NFL career, and in this NFL season, he almost passed for 400 in a blowout loss versus the Saints last week. So higher than 216.5 against the Steelers team, which is a very good defense, but they're not necessarily shutting you down between the 20s. There's definitely room to get some garbage yards, especially if the Steelers have a big lead. So higher than 216.5 passing yards for Jameis Winston, and this could go lower if the weather gets worse as we get closer to game time. Again, keep an eye on the wind. If the wind's below 20 miles per hour, you're fine, even if it is raining. Last one, TJ Watt, higher than half of a sack. Jameis Winston got sacked 11 times in the last 3 games. If the Steelers get 3 or 4 sacks in this game, you'd be hard-pressed to find a reason why TJ Watt isn't involved in at least one of those. So give me TJ Watt higher than half of a sack in this game on this slip. This is a 3.94x multiplier slip. It's a little bit more conservative. That's plus 294 in sports betting terms if you're a new person to Underdog Pick'em. Again, if you are a new person, sign up with promo code DailyDog and get that deposit match bonus worth up to $1,000, 50% of whatever you deposit in your first time depositing once you install the app or get on the website. All right, so again, that Thursday night football slip. Chris Boswell, higher than 1.5 extra points made. Jameis Winston, higher than 216.5 passing yards. And TJ Watt, higher than half of the sack. All those things are very, very likely to happen. 3.94x multiplier. That's why it's a little bit more conservative. Yesterday's slip was a little bit, it stayed the same, but one of the numbers did move a little bit. We had Nick Chubb lower than 59.5 rush yards. George Pickens higher than 69.5 receiving yards. And Jaylen Warren higher than 12.5 receiving yards. Jaylen Warren is up to 13.5. That number was way too low. Jaylen Warren gets 13 plus receiving yards every game that Russell Wilson starts. He's the receiving back for this offense. Cordero Patterson and obviously Najee Harris are much more of the power guys. They do get involved a little bit in the passing game, but Warren is definitely the designated receiving back. So 12.5, just much too low, especially with the way this offense has looked since Russell Wilson has taken over. Still a 6.6x multiplier on that slip with Chubb lower than 59.5 rush yards. Pickens higher than 69.5 receiving yards, and Jaylen Warren higher than 12.5 receiving yards. Now it's up to 13.5. I think it's still playable up to like 15. So you still have a little bit of room to roll there. if you have not locked that one in yet. All right, on Tuesday's slip, this is one we got some more value on. The numbers have gone down. We had Russell Wilson higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns, Jameis Winston higher than half of an interception, and George Pickens higher than 4.5 receptions. We got that one locked in at 7.34x. It's down to 6.69x. I think you're still good down to like 6x on this one, to be honest. I think Wilson is just vastly underrated as a passing touchdown threat. He didn't score any passing touchdowns last week against the Ravens. It wasn't for lack of trying. They took a lot of shots to the end zone in that game. It just didn't work out for whatever reason. But I liked the fact that they were taking those shots. They weren't being conservative. They weren't playing for the field goal. They just ended up with the field goals. They were definitely taking those shots, though, to George Pickens and Darnell Washington and other guys. So give me that Wilson higher than 1.5 passing TDs. And then Winston higher than half an interception. They're playing from behind. I like the chances of him getting a little bit too overzealous and throwing one to Minkah Fitzpatrick specifically, or maybe even Joey Porter Jr., although he's not a huge interception guy. And then Pickens, 4.5 receptions. Just Russell Wilson loves him. He throws to him all the time. You can get 5+ in this one, no problem. All right, those are our 3 Thursday night football slips that we have entered this week. If we hit one of them, it's a profitable game. If we hit 2 of them, it's even better. If we hit 3 of them, the whole week is basically paid for. So let's go 3 for 3 and hit all those slips. Let's thread that needle. The only thing that would be bad about that is I'd be sad that I didn't make a 9-leg slip somehow and get the biggest odds possible. All right, Tuesday, I've said Tuesday, but it's Thursday. Thursday NBA slate. A little bit shorter of a slate here, but there's stuff that I really do like. First one is going to be Jaylen Duren higher than 10.5 rebounds against the Charlotte Hornets. Basically, the Hornets kind of stink. They don't kind of stink. They actually stink. It's kind of similar to what we did earlier this week when we took Duren higher than 10.5 rebounds against the Bulls. Just these crappy teams don't have the dudes that want to stand and bang like some of the more competitive teams. Jaren Duren is a young and hungry player. He is going to eat in this one and get a lot of boards, especially when you got LaMelo Ball jacking up 15 3-pointers, or Lonzo Ball jacking up 15 3-pointers. Next, we're going to go to RJ Barrett higher than 1.5 3-pointers made against the T-Wolves. Barrett hit this for us earlier this week in the first quarter. He's shooting really well right now. This is lined like he's not a 3-point threat. He definitely is a 3-point threat. This is just too low. I'm putting that in my slip 10 days a week. Oh, wait, there's only 7 days. So I'll put it in my slip 7 days a week. And then there's Franz Wagner, who was 0 for 4 from the 3-point line yesterday against the Clippers. Now he gets to go to the Lakers. Give me Wagner higher than 1.5 3-pointers made after going 0 for 4. We're getting it. We're buying low. The guy isn't going to have 2 crappy 3-point games in a row. He only had 14 points yesterday after being on an absolute tear. So let me get him here in this rebound spot, no pun intended, because it's NBA. So that NBA slip, Jaylen Duren of the Pistons higher than 10.5 rebounds, RJ Barrett of the Raptors higher than 1.5 3-pointers made, and Franz Wagner of the Magic higher than 1.5 3-pointers made, 5.02x multiplier. Last one, NHL. NHL, we kind of were DOA because there just weren't enough goals scored there weren't enough goals scored yesterday. In the NHL games we targeted, just to be honest. The Kings got shut out, and some other guys got shut out. So that kind of hurts when that happens. You're not going to get your points or assists higher numbers when there's no goals scored at all. But let's try to avoid that today. And this one's a little bit of a lotto ticket. This is a 15.9x multiplier, so basically 15 to 1 odds on this one. Going Dylan Strome of the Capitals to score a goal higher than 0.5 goals. Ovi is out. They need offense elsewhere. Strome is a great point getter for this team. He's obviously more of an assist guy, but without Ovi, he's going to be more of a shooter. Give me Dylan Strome higher than half of a goal in this game against the Avs. Avs are wrong team favored situation on the road in Washington. I know Ovi's out, but it's still wrong team favored on the road in Washington. And I think that bottom 3-4 in the league in goals allowed for the Avs. Strome's going to have plenty of opportunities to get one in the net there. Next, we're going to David Pastrnak of the Bruins, higher than 1.5 points against Utah. Just a great spot for the Bruins. They just fired their coach. We got the new coach bump coming in. Obviously, that's a very strong handicap, at least for a game. Pastrnak, leading point getter for this Bruins team that's been struggling. New era in Boston, but let's get the same old pasta. Let's get Pastrnak 1.5 points here, goals, assists, whatever. blow them out and leave no doubt. Last one in the NHL streets, Macklin, Celebrini, higher than 0.5 points for the Sharks at the Blues. I think, one, the Sharks team has way more fight than anyone's noticing because no one notices anything the Sharks do unless they're in the Stanley Cup. And two, I think this Blues team is wildly inconsistent, and there's games where they just have gotten blown up on the score sheet. They've allowed too many goals. Macklin, Celebrini, great shot to get a point here. So the NHL select Dylan Strome, higher than half a goal. David Pastrnak, higher than 1.5 points. Macklin, Celebrini, higher than 0.5 points. 15.95x multiplier. All right, that's all I got for you today. Let's make some money.